Virgo. You weren't expecting this one. And I want to sit with that specific quality, the unexpectedness of it before anything else. Because there's a difference between something you've been anticipating and something that arrives genuinely sideways. Something that finds you in an ordinary moment, in the middle of an ordinary day, and reconfigures something before you've had time to brace for reconfiguration. That's the quality of what's coming. Not the thing you've been half preparing for. Not the person your mind goes to when you imagine someone reaching out. Not the scenario you've rehearsed in the half-sleep moments without fully admitting you were rehearsing it. Something else. Someone else. And the reason it's going to feel like a miracle, the specific word the title uses and the specific word I keep coming back to when I sit with this energy, isn't because it's supernatural. It's because it arrives at exactly the intersection of when you needed it and when you'd stopped expecting it. And things that arrive at exactly that intersection always feel miraculous, not because the universe orchestrated them necessarily, because the timing is so precise, so specific to where you actually are, that coincidence doesn't quite cover it. This has the feeling of something that was always going to happen. You just didn't know when. Let me describe where you are right now. Before the confession, before the person, before any of the details that are going to make this specific, because I want to paint the before picture clearly. There's a specific kind of emotional fatigue you've been carrying. Not depression, I want to be precise, not hopelessness. Something more functional than that. Something that coexists with you continuing to show up, continuing to do the things, continuing to move through your life with the competence that is so native to you. It happens almost automatically now. But underneath the competence, a tiredness, the specific tiredness of someone who has been giving emotionally, energetically, in all the invisible ways that Virgo gives without receiving an equal measure. Who has been the person others lean on, call on, count on, without always having someone to lean on themselves? Who has become so reliably self-sufficient that people have stopped thinking to offer, not because people don't care, because you've made not needing look so natural that needing has become almost unimaginable to those around you. And in that specific tiredness, in the quiet of someone who has been managing alone for longer than they'd like, there has been a private wish, not articulated out loud, barely articulated internally, more like a felt sense, a body knowledge of wanting something you haven't been able to name precisely because naming it would require admitting how much you want it. To be surprised, to have something arrive that you didn't engineer, didn't manage, didn't make happen through your own sustained effort. To receive something simply, without the exhausting architecture of having produced it yourself. The confession is that something. And I want to describe its quality before I try to describe who it comes from, because the quality matters as much as the source, maybe more. It's going to be honest in a way that disarms you, not polished, not prepared, not the kind of confession that has been rehearsed into smoothness, the kind that comes out slightly more real than the person intended. That surprises them as much as it surprises you, because somewhere in the saying of it, it became more than they planned to say. Because the truth, once it starts moving, sometimes moves further than you intended it to. And you're going to feel that. The specific quality of something unscripted, of someone standing in front of you without their usual management in place, without the careful curation of how they're being perceived. Just present, honest, saying the actual thing. That quality of honesty is going to land in a specific place in you. The place that has been tired, the place that has been quietly wishing for something real to arrive. And it's going to land there. And I want to find the right image for this. Like water finding a place that didn't know it was dry. Hold on. Because I want to try to describe who this person is. And I want to do it carefully because I think the who is the part you're most curious about and also the part I need to be most precise about. This isn't who you think. That's the first thing I keep coming back to. The first thing that keeps arriving when I sit with this. Not the person your mind immediately goes to when you hear the word confession. Not the obvious candidate. Not the one the narrative of your recent life would predict. Someone adjacent to that. Someone who has been in your world in a way that has felt until now like something other than what it actually is, who has occupied a particular category in your understanding of your own life, a friend maybe, or someone who exists in a professional or social context that has its own established dynamic, someone whose presence has been consistent enough to feel like furniture, present, familiar, not particularly remarkable because of its very consistency. And underneath that consistency, something has been building, not casually, not in the way of someone who developed a passing interest and is now acting on it, in the way of something that has been genuine for longer than you're going to initially believe. Something that accumulated slowly in private, without declaration, through the specific experience of being in your presence over time and finding that presence, the specific, particular, irreplaceable quality of you, increasingly impossible to categorize as just a friend, just a colleague, just someone in the orbit. The just has been eroding for a long time, and this is the moment it finally goes completely. There's an image I can't move past. Someone sitting across from you in an ordinary setting, an ordinary conversation happening, the kind you've had with this person before, the kind that has its own comfortable rhythm. And somewhere in the middle of it, in a pause, in a moment where something in the conversation creates an opening slightly wider than usual, something shifts in their face, not dramatically, a settling, the specific look of someone who has just made a decision, who reached a threshold mid-conversation and crossed it quietly without announcement. And then they say something. That begins normally enough. That sounds, in its first few words, like it might be going somewhere ordinary. And then it goes somewhere else entirely. And you feel it before you fully process the words. Feel the shift in the air between you. Feel the specific change in the quality of what's happening from familiar to significant in the space of a sentence. And you look at them and they're looking at you, and there's a moment, just a moment, a handful of seconds where both of you are simply in it, in the reality of what was just said, in the new shape of something that used to have a different shape. That moment, that's the miracle. The more I sit with this, the more I keep finding something about what this person has been carrying. It has been heavy. Whatever this feeling is, whatever the specific content of the confession, it hasn't been light to hold, has required active containment. The ongoing effort of someone who is in regular contact with the source of a significant feeling and has to, each time, manage how much of that feeling is visible. That management is exhausting. And I want to describe what that exhaustion looks like in the context of being around you specifically. Every ordinary interaction has a subtext. Every casual conversation has a layer underneath it that only they can hear. Every moment of proximity, the unremarkable moments, the functional moments, the moments that mean nothing in the visible register, carries an additional weight of what isn't being said, what is being felt and not expressed, what is true and being managed. For a long time, that management was something they could sustain. And then, and this is the thing I keep coming back to when I try to understand why now, why this window, it became more expensive than they could afford. Not because something dramatic happened, because time passed. And time passing in the presence of something you feel strongly and don't express doesn't make the feeling smaller, does the opposite. And eventually the weight of the unexpressed thing exceeds the weight of the risk of expressing it. That's where they are. The weight finally tipped. Wait, I want to go deeper here because there's something I keep finding about the specific trigger for why this happens now, and I don't want to move past it. Something you did recently, or something about you recently, something they witnessed or experienced or simply noticed that pushed the weight past the tipping point. Not something grand, something ordinary made extraordinary by the specific sensitivity of someone who has been paying close attention, maybe the way you handled something difficult, the specific Virgo quality of someone moving through a complicated situation with a grace that comes from genuine competence, not performance, competence, and they watched it. And something in the watching made the feeling in them impossible to keep at the containable distance they'd been maintaining. Or something smaller than that, something almost embarrassingly small, a moment of genuine laughter, the specific unguarded version of your laugh, the one that arrives before you've had time to moderate it, the one that's just real, or something they overheard you say to someone else, something that revealed a quality of your thinking, your heart, the specific way you see the world that made them think this specific person is someone I cannot continue to be this close to without saying something true. Whatever it was, it tipped the weight, and what follows the tipping is what's coming. I want to talk about your response, not what you should feel. That's not something I'd presume to script, but what I think is actually going to happen in you when this lands. The first thing is going to be a kind of stillness, not the stillness of someone who saw it coming and is confirming a prediction, the stillness of genuine surprise, of something arriving at an angle you weren't watching, of the mind encountering information that doesn't fit into any of its existing categories and needing a moment, just a moment to create a new one. And in that stillness, something is going to soften in you. Not your discernment, not your intelligence, not the part of you that will eventually, when the moment is ready for it, assess this carefully and thoughtfully and with the full Virgo rigor that you bring to things that matter. Something else will soften. The tiredness, the specific tiredness of someone who has been receiving the ordinary when they needed the real. That particular weight is going to lift, not entirely, not immediately, but noticeably, in the specific way that something real arriving changes the quality of the air. You're going to breathe differently without deciding to. There's something about the miracle quality of this that I want to address directly, because I think the word miracle is doing something important in the title, and I want to honor that. You've been pragmatic about love, about connection, about what's available to you. Not cynically pragmatic, practically pragmatic. The specific kind of pragmatism that develops in someone who has experienced enough to know that what they feel and what they receive are not always the same thing. Who has adjusted their internal expectations towards something more realistic than what they privately hope for. And that adjustment, that quiet lowering of the volume on certain hopes is very human and very understandable, and also the thing that makes something like this feel miraculous when it arrives, because you'd stopped expecting it. Not from this direction, not in this form, not with this quality of genuine, unmanaged, I can't hold this anymore honesty. And things we've stopped expecting always arrive with a quality that feels slightly larger than things we anticipated, because they have to clear the accumulated sediment of the expectation being managed down before they can land. This is clearing it right now in this window. And what lands when the clearing is complete is going to feel like something you forgot was possible. I want to say something about what this confession opens. Not just the relationship it potentially begins, something broader than that. It opens a belief. The specific belief, quietly held, rarely examined, operating in the background of your emotional life, that the kind of connection you actually want isn't really available to you. That what you feel capable of and what you're likely to receive don't quite overlap. That the quality of love you're able to offer is something that tends to be more than what comes back. This confession is going to challenge that belief with direct evidence, because what this person is bringing, the specific quality of what they feel, how long they've felt it, the fact that they feel it precisely because of who you are rather than in spite of it, that's the counter evidence. The direct, personal, aimed specifically at you counter evidence to the belief that real reciprocity isn't available to you. It's available. It's arriving in the form of someone who has been in your world long enough to know you, not the curated version, not the competent surface, the actual you, and who has found in knowing that actual you something worth the vulnerability of confession. There's something I want to name about what happens after the initial moment, because the moment itself, the confession, the stillness, the softening, that's one thing. What comes after is another. And what comes after is going to require something from you that I want to prepare you for. Honesty in return, not manufactured, not performed, not the strategic calculation of how to respond to maximize a particular outcome. Your actual response, which may be complicated, which may include things that aren't simply reciprocal, things like surprise, like needing time, like the specific Virgo requirement of processing before responding fully. All of that is legitimate. All of that is yours to bring. What I'm saying is, don't manage this. Don't curate your response into the most acceptable version. Don't edit yourself in the moment of someone else's complete honesty. Meet the honesty with your own, whatever form your honesty takes. If it's reciprocal feeling, say so, without the Virgo qualifier, without the asterisk. Just say so. If it's genuine surprise that needs time, say that without apology, without performing more certainty than you have. If it's complicated, say it's complicated, because complicated doesn't mean no. Complicated means this is real enough to be worth taking seriously rather than answering in 30 seconds. Honesty for honesty. That's the only exchange this moment deserves. The last thing, you've spent a significant portion of your life being the reliable one, the one who shows up, the one who handles things, the one whose competence has become so trusted that people sometimes forget, or you sometimes forget, that competence is not the whole of what you are. Underneath the competence, the person who wants to be surprised, who wants something to arrive that they didn't have to engineer, who wants to be on the receiving end of something real, who wants to feel specifically and personally and undeniably that someone sees them and feels something and can't not say so. That person is about to get exactly that. Not from who you expected, from someone who has been close enough to see you clearly, who has been in the ordinary moments, the unguarded ones, the ones that reveal who a person actually is when they're not performing anything for anyone, and who found in those ordinary moments something extraordinary. You, the actual you, the one you don't always let people see, they saw it anyway. And they can't hold what that scene produced for a single day longer. So they're going to tell you, and when they do, let it be the miracle it is. Let it land all the way without the editing, without the qualifying, without the immediate reach for the analytical distance that usually arrives to protect you from feeling things too fully. Just let it in. You've earned the right to be surprised by something good. This is that something. If something in this touched something true, if a moment arrived somewhere you didn't expect, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Tell me what resonated, even just a few words. It means more than you know.